First Lieutenant Bernice, Barracks, United States Army, World War II. Bernice is one of my Army nurses from World War II. She served with the Women's Army Corps and was a first lieutenant, stationed in England during the war with the 316th Station Hospital, and just saw a lot there. And I love these female women perspectives of war. It's very enlightening, and Bernice tells a great story. I met her, had the honor of meeting her and about a dozen other veterans in Algona, Iowa. It was August 8th of 2007. That's the trip where I drove to Clear Lake, Iowa, where Buddy Holly played his last concert in February 2nd, 1959, and then to Mason City, Iowa, and to the crash site. I shared that on the anniversary of his death. But Bernice, just fond memories of her. She passed away 10 years ago at the age of 93, worked as a nurse after the war, got married, had 4 kids, and just really loved her work. You can see it when I interviewed her. She was just a wonderful lady. I have great memories of her. She was about 83 years old, I think, when I interviewed her. And but you'll get to hear her story right now for the first time. And again, one of the few female women stories in the military I have, but you'll enjoy it. I want to thank Angie Simmons. Angie's husband, Terry, served in Vietnam. A lot of you have seen his Vietnam interview. If you haven't, look it up, Terry Simmons. Angie, thank you again for stepping forward and helping me to share Women in War. You've been helping me with that series, and I love you and Terry. Thank you so much for your help with my work and for supporting all of our veterans in our country. God bless you guys. Hope to see you soon. Hope Terry's healing and doing well. Folks, I'd like to encourage you to sponsor one of these stories like Angie has. I've got many of them. I've got Canadian stories hardly anybody's heard. I've got so many more hundreds of stories in my archives, and my goal before I leave this earth is to get them all out for future generations to learn. There's so much educational value in these. I think you would agree with that. This is living history, folks. First-hand accounts doesn't get any better than that. History is best learned from those who were there, and these were the men and women who were there, and they're giving you a first-hand account. I never thought I would ever share these stories. These were private to me, but the day has come where I feel it's needful, especially in the day we live in, to share the stories and why we have our freedoms and the price that has been paid for our freedoms. So that's why I'm doing this. I'd like to encourage you to sponsor one of these. Like I said, donate to this work or to my radio station, Voices of History Radio. Hopefully we're going to keep it on the air, so any help you can afford us would be greatly appreciated. There's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. You see the end result, but there's a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm grateful, and I thank God that I can serve Him and my country through the lens of my camera. Thank you for watching and listening, subscribing to this channel, and I will talk to you again. Enjoy Bernice's story. God bless you.
'43. Same as Nadia then?
Yes.
Did you guys go in together, or did you know each other at the time?
No. We met out at Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, just before we were going to go overseas. And when I was signing in, they asked which county I was from, and I said Hancock County, and this man said, "Oh, a lady just went through that was from Hancock County." So then I looked Nadia up.
And then where did you have your training at, Bernice?
University of Iowa.
Okay. Did you feel a sense of duty to serve your country like a lot of the young men did at that time, or why did you join the military?
Well, a lot of the nurses that I knew had joined, and it was just seemed like the thing to do.
Had you had any medical training before this?
Before the
Before you
army,
joined the Army?
just a nurse's training.
So you had some qualifications, and they were looking for people at this time, obviously.
I think they were needed.
So, at what point did you go? Did you go overseas too?
Yes,
In '43?
yes. In September of '43.
Okay. Then did you two go over together then?
Yes,
Okay. So you're friends this whole time. Uh-huh. Were you stationed at the same hospital?
yes.
Okay.
We slept in the same barracks.
Tell me the name of the city again that you were in over in England.
The city, Newton Abbot, was the town nearest where we were.
And the 316th.
Station Hospital.
Okay. And your title was just nurse. Is that basically it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was there a rank that you had?
Yes,
What was the rank?
lieutenant.
How about Nadia? What was she? I didn't ask her.
Oh, Nadia, you tell her. No, she came out a captain.
Okay, I thought. Okay, so she was a captain. You were a lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was only a lieutenant.
Okay. Okay. And now she worked in Central Supply. Where did you work at the hospital?
I worked on an orthopedic ward.
So what kind of wounds and casualties are you seeing and are you treating at that time while you were there?
Well, they had the initial care was given at the field hospital over on the continent, and then we would get them. So they had had some care before, like I suppose if they'd had a cut, they would have had it stitched closed. We cared for them. After that, someone back to duty, and I suppose if they were really bad, they went home.
Did patients die at the time? Were they pretty stabilized, or did you have a lot of trauma at the hospital?
I remember that they were stabilized. We just had dressings changed, and it was an orthopedic ward, so most of them had broken extremities and lots of up and traction, and so maybe the ward that I was on probably was not one of the ones that had the worst injuries.
How about amputees? Were they on your ward too or not?
I don't remember that there were any.
Now you worked 12-hour shifts?
Yes.
Is that hard? Was that a hard time, or did it go fast? Do you remember, or was it just? That's a lot of hours.
Well, of course we would get to go to the mess hall to eat, and it did not seem that long that I remember anyway. We were used to only working 8-hour shifts, you know. And
What kind of interaction did you have with these troops that were injured? I mean, do you remember conversations? Did you hold their hands? What kind of personal care did you give them?
well, I think we probably did a lot of listening, visiting, and probably about families, and just like I said, not on the ward that I was on was broken bones, and so it was not I suppose as serious as the ones who would have amputees, I imagine, would have been on the surgical wards, right?
What are there any stories that come to mind with any of these young men that you remember that maybe stand out more than the others that you were treating at the time? Are there any stories that are still maybe that come to your mind?
Well, I don't know if Nadia told about we were stationed in the southern part of England until about September of the next year. And then we went I'm still in 43. No, 44. Then we went to Glasgow, Scotland, and we're in an evacuation hospital back to the United States. Sometimes we would not have hardly any patients. Then the ambulances would bring them in, and when they would have enough patients for a ship, then the British ambulances would come out and take them and put them on board, and they'd go home. Then 3 months, 4 of we nurses and staff were at RAF. We took over an RAF nursing home, and there was, I think, room for 280 patients. They either went home by ship. Oh no, those were the ones that went home by air. They were more seriously injured, and we would just be the holding point for them until airplane would come. We'd take them out at night because of the blackout and stuff, and put them on board a plane, and they would go home, the ones that needed more care. That was probably one of the best duties, because you knew they were going to go where they wanted to go. And I don't know. That maybe was, see, Prestwick was a international airport, huge. And I think maybe the 3 months that I spent there, and like I say, knew that the patients were going to get to go home either by air or by ship, was the most outstanding thing that I could think of right now.
Now, you said you worked with the orthopedic patients, and again, describe what the patient care that you gave. Did you change dressings, IVs, what type of thing?
We changed dressings. We helped with physical therapy, exercises, bathed them. A lot of them were in traction and could not be taken out of the bed, taken out of the traction. So we bathed them and had to keep them from getting bed sores. And I think maybe they were in better spirits than maybe someone with, because if you have a fracture, you have more of a chance of, you're pretty sure you're going to heal, unless it's real bad.
Does it seem like 60 years ago, or does it seem like yesterday sometimes, some of these memories? Are they still pretty vivid in your mind?
Some is and some isn't. And not many people come and ask, tell us about your experiences. So the only ones that appreciate hearing about it is when we get together with, like, Nadia or friends who have had the same experience that we did have.
Can you tell me, Bernice, what you remember about D-Day, before D-Day, during, and then after D-Day? The build-up, the planes, the ships, and then casualties coming back. Tell me about D-Day.
Well, we went over in September before D-Day, and we're supposed to have gotten the first patients, imagine, because we were set up in the southern part, right across the channel from where the invasion did take place. Then before the invasion, we could almost tell something was going to be happening. We had to wear our helmets hang our helmets on the end of our bed and a gas mask, and we wore impregnated clothing. And then the night of, I did keep a diary of some sort, and I have it written down that about 9:30, the night of the invasion, we heard the rumbling of the guns, and then the German, we were supposed to get the first patients. We had put up, like maybe 14 tents on cement pads, and besides the wards, we had the permanent wards. And then the Germans had bombed the port where we were to receive our patients. So our first patients were German prisoners of war, and that was 2 weeks later even, from the time of the invasion. And then the second bunch was another group of, I was not on the ward. They were not on my ward, but anyway, but we could hear the rumbling, and then the road was closed past our, where the hospital was located, and it was closed only to Army traffic, tanks, and lots of, well then see, I had a number, 1,100 ships. I suppose there'd be LSDs and all those, and I don't know, all kinds of planes. The next day after we heard all this rumbling, and then we did have a radio, and it said that the invasion had started. But
at the time, did you realize how significant and how immense this event was? Or is it just looking back in history you realize that?
I imagine because we had, I suppose we had been sent over there early to make preparations for something, you know, that was gonna happen pretty soon.
What were your thoughts about the young men that you treated and the casualties of war? What were your thoughts about war, about what we were doing? I mean, do you think of these things when you're taking care of these patients, or is it just a job and you're just focused on your job? Or do you look at the overall picture of the casualties, or did you have the thought that...
Well, it was terrible. War is terrible. And we knew if the patients got better, they would probably be sent back up to the front, which would not be anything good to look forward to. We made lots of good friends with the nurses and the people that we worked with. But, of course, war is not good. And I suppose we tried to be as friendly as we could be to the patients to try to make them feel better.
What about your thoughts about Hitler and the Germans at that time? Were you hateful towards them, or what do you remember thinking about them?
Well, I don't remember spending a lot of time thinking about them, only hoping that the United States was getting closer to winning. And I don't know if...
Was there any...
See, that's a long time ago.
Was there ever any doubt that we wouldn't win that war?
No, not... I'm sure there wasn't. But
I don't think I've ever asked that question out of all the interviews I've done, but that's an interesting thought. You know, was there ever any doubt? I know when they first landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day that they were going to withdraw their troops because of the casualties. Now, did you get a lot of casualties eventually back to your hospital from France, Americans?
Well, I imagine we had lots of patients, but see, we didn't get any right away because of the bombing of the port, and most of them, I don't think we ever got any right from the battlefield because they had been at a field hospital before they would have come to the station hospital.
So can you give me the order of events when somebody's wounded on the battlefield? Where do they go, and then tell me the progress to get back to you? Do you know?
Now, I'm not real sure. I'm not an authority, but I think they would be seen initially at the field hospital. I suppose dressings and tourniquets and everything, you know, and then they would be sent back to the station hospital. And then the next place would be a general hospital for, I suppose, see, I never really did think a lot about that, only that would be the field hospital and the station hospital and the general hospital. And then I suppose they'd either go back out to the front or home. But
So you were the field hospital? No, no.
No, we were station hospital. See,
Station, okay.
field hospital would be right behind the front lines.
So the medic would treat.
I think. See, all of this is.
That's okay.
It's not. I'm no authority.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So how many months were you in England at that hospital?
Ooh, I went.
Approximately. I mean, 6 months, a year.
I think maybe about. We went over in August, then the war didn't. No, in September, and the war didn't start till June. And then about in November, I think. I have it all written down someplace.
It's not that important.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Where we went, then the general hospital took over where we were in southern England, and then we were sent to Glasgow, Scotland to act as an evacuation hospital back to the States.
Okay. Okay. So again, you're changing dressings, you said? Are you doing IVs or giving pills or shots or anything like that? Or
Well, see, it was mostly dressing changes and checking to see. On the ward that I was on was a lot of traction, and so they didn't have any pressure sores under where everything was rubbing, and it was probably not the real modern everything, and some people, I suppose, had to be helped. We had to help feed some of them, and I think the ward that I was on probably was the least serious. I mean, people with fractures have casts eventually, and a lot of them were in traction to lengthen the bone pieces so that they could put casts on.
do you remember any? I know it was a long time ago, so you probably don't. But when I talk to different people like yourselves who've had patient care in the war, do you remember any conversations that you would have had with any of these guys? Were you free to talk to them about what happened to them, or is that confidential?
I don't think it ever got that personal, like who shot you or what were you doing when you were injured, or I don't remember any of that anyway.
Did you ever wonder maybe what happened to them? I mean, obviously they were wounded in battle, but I mean, as a nurse, do you ever have those types of thoughts like, I wonder what happened to you or you or you? I mean, that type of thing?
Oh, I imagine some of them probably were more a favorite of ours than others, or see, been a long time ago.
Well, when you're treating a patient, I mean, are they there for weeks at a time or months at a time?
Well, it would depend upon their injury.
And then they're discharged, like at a regular hospital.
And I think if they were there for any length of time, they probably would have been sent then to the general hospital.
Okay. But as far as, anything personal, like are they looking forward to going home, or is it just, are they going to go back and fight again, or did all those patients go home pretty much from that hospital?
No, I don't think that many got to go home because it was not probably, if they were seriously injured and it was going to take a length of time for them to get better, they would have gone to the general hospital, and then we would have lost track of them.
You ever wonder what happened to a lot of those young men all these years later? Do you ever have thoughts like that?
Sure. Bob has asked me several times about the worst injury that I had seen, and it wasn't on my ward, but it was a soldier who had lost both arms and both legs. And then that was at the evacuation hospital, where I imagine his wounds were, the section where that was lost was probably not healed, but enough so that he could go home and would be taken care of on the ship. But then the best duty, I think, was when we were at Prestwick, Scotland, and could take 18 patients out to an airplane and put them on and know that I suppose the next day they'd be home. And they were probably the ones that were more seriously injured and needed more care than could be given to them.
As far as D-Day and World War II in general, I mean, can you imagine being that young and landing on those beaches under enemy fire and maybe for the first time in combat like a lot of them were? I mean, that's an amazing thought that our young men at that time did that.
To this day, it's terrible, and every once in a while, those things are shown on television programs, you know, and I would rather not even watch it.
It's amazing, though, isn't it, what we did in World War II?
Mercy. It's just, you just can't believe it.
Do you think our country today, Bernice, is forgetting about what happened during World War II?
Well, a lot of them are not living anymore, but I don't think that the younger generation maybe realizes what they don't come and say, "Grandma, tell me about your experience," and we hope they don't have to experience it.
What about what our young men fought for in World War II? Do you think our country is forgetting that, or are we losing that today? Are we losing what those men fought for in our country today?
Oh, I hope not. I don't know. I haven't discussed such, but I would surely hope they wouldn't. Life is good.
Well, you saw a lot of casualties of war, and with that comes a price for our freedoms. Do you agree with that? I mean,
Sure.
how would you tell a young person today about the price for freedom that takes their freedoms for granted? They were born in this country, they've always had what they have, but do they ever realize why and the cost for freedom? What would you tell a young person about the price for freedom?
I just don't know quite how to answer that. They have it pretty good, and I just don't know what to say about that.
Well, what does freedom mean to you as a veteran and as an American citizen? What does freedom mean to you?
Well, it's pretty nice. Everything we do not, the average person does not want for much. And see, I just don't know. I'm old. I don't know just quite how to answer that. I'm real glad we have what we have and the freedom that we do have. And I don't want to live anyplace else. And
Well, you're doing fine. You're answering it. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
but
I'm kind of jumping around a little bit from what you did in our country today and this, our younger generation, because I show a lot of what I do in schools, and I want to teach the kids the history of what happened in World War II and why we
I
have
see.
what we
Yeah.
have today.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't come by cheap.
No, it didn't.
You took care of probably hundreds of patients during your time over there. Was the hospital in Glasgow different than the hospital in England? Was it a different environment or same kind of patients or what?
Well, it was entirely different because we acted as an evacuation hospital back to the States, either by air or by ship. Sometimes we would not have any patients hardly, just local people. I mean, local soldiers who would have a cold or who had fallen or something, and then they would bring in patients from all over, and we'd get enough to, a ship would come in at Glasgow, wherever it docked, and then the British ambulances would come out and load the patients and take them out to the ship, and then they were going to go home. And the same way with air, I'm sure all those soldiers were real happy to be going back to the States. So that was my the service that I liked. We were over there from September until June, taking care of patients. Then I think there was engineer battalion or outfit right across the road from us, and we care for their soldiers who had, I mean, there wasn't any fighting war then, but so it was just kind of local, you know, the ones that were at our hospital or from the unit across the road from us.
Bernice, what was the hardest part of your job as a nurse over there in Europe?
Was seeing all the injured and hoping that we could help them. And probably being away from home, but made lots of good friends, and we were all in the same predicament. So.
Were you married at the time?
No.
So, but you kept a diary, you said.
Yes.
Did you ever read through that?
I have, since I've been asked to do this.
Were there things that you maybe have forgotten about, that you read about, that maybe that would go along the lines of your working as a nurse? Anything that comes to mind that maybe you forgot about?
No, but as I was reading it, it was almost like I was lost in time, and I realized I was not back there, but it was. I had not read it for quite a while, so it was interesting.
Does it seem like another life, or does it seem like...
Kind of, mm-hmm.
Are you proud that you're a World War II veteran?
Very proud.
Do people thank you for your service?
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
Like it was all worth it.
What does Memorial Day or Veterans Day mean to you as a veteran?
Well, it brings back memories. A lot of the, like in the town where we live, they have celebration type things, you know, at the schools and at the cemeteries on Memorial Day, and it's good to feel a part of it.
Do you agree with the statement that World War II, or the World War II generation, was the greatest generation, and why?
Well, after hearing Brokaw and those people tell about it, I think it was a great generation. Never thought there would ever be another war. Never even gave it a thought, you know. But I'm glad I'm still alive and experiencing. I'd just soon not be experiencing seeing about the young folks that are getting killed now over there.
What about D-Day? Looking back historically, and even when you were there, how important do you feel that was to the ending of the war in Europe and the overall aspects of World War II? How important do you think D-Day was?
Well, imagine that it was a surprise thing, wasn't it? I mean, they did not know when it was going to be, and I don't know. I hate to think about all the lives lost right then, but they went on through. Mercy.
It was quite something we'll probably never see again.
No,
Do you remember the planes going overhead into?
Oh, it was just like, that was one thing I had written up in my diary, that it was lots of air traffic, and then planes hauling the gliders, and you knew that the gliders wouldn't be coming back. And we had lots of air raids. That was, yeah, when we were in England, and if we were at home, I mean, at the barracks, we would have to go back on duty if there was air raids, and sometimes they were closed. The bombs dishes would rattle in the cupboards, and we'd have to get patients under the beds, and see, this is the way I understood it. Dublin was the southern part of Ireland, and they were never ever, remained neutral, so they did not ever have any blackouts or anything. So the planes would line up from there to, I wish I could ask Nadia, I think it was Liverpool, and Liverpool just got bombed like everything. Then when we'd go to, and then I suppose they'd know where to head for. Every once in a while we'd see these aluminum tapes coming down through the sky to interfere with messages being sent. And when we'd go to London on leave, I can remember having seen lights, how they, I mean, now the only way I can explain it is like they show in the movies, you know, when the lights get an enemy plane, and when the searchlights go out and get an enemy plane, we did get to see that. And we were in shelters. We'd have to go down the shelters. And that was when we were on vacation.
So were you aware that D-Day was happening when it happened, or was it a secret?
Well, we were pretty sure something was going to be going on because of no one was allowed to leave our camp, and we had lots of ball games they entertained themselves, you know, and then the traffic, was no traffic allowed on the roads, no civilian traffic, and it was Army, all the Army tanks and stuff going down the roads. And I suppose we knew that it would not be very long before something was going to be going on.
Are there any other stories regarding the patient care that you had in the hospitals? I mean, you mentioned that gentleman that had lost both limbs, or 4 limbs. I mean, was that a common occurrence? Or, I mean, I'm trying to get the personal side of what you did, the patient care, the compassion, the caring that you had as a nurse, and did those young men just want to have you? I've had some of them say they wanted to hold the hands of the nurses.
Oh yeah,
So,
it was like they were almost like your relatives, you know. And if we could listen or visit with them when there was nothing else just real important going on, of course we would do that. And our main job was to keep them comfortable. And
what was the mood of those wards? I mean, was it quiet, somber, happy, sad? What was the mood?
Well, I remember, like I say, I spent most of my time on orthopedic ward, and a lot of it was fun stuff, because I imagine they were given the medicine to keep the discomfort down, and they'd be yelling back and forth at each other. And
The good old days, you think, or was it a hard time for you? You got good memories of that, or?
well, I'm glad I had that experience. I did not want a war to happen to give it to me, but as long as it did, it was it was an experience that I am proud to have had.
That's very well said there. That was good. What does the American flag mean and represent to you as a veteran and as an American citizen, Bernice?
Ooh. It's something that I think maybe I've accepted too easily. It's always been there, and I'm proud to salute it as it goes by. And someday I might be able to have one folded up. No, it's great. It's just, I'm very proud of our American flag.
It's a symbol of freedom, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What do you remember about the end of the war in Europe? Where were you? How did you get the news? And then do you remember how you felt when you heard the war was over?
Well, I know we went to Glasgow that night and celebrated. Let's see now. I was home in Iowa when it bombed when the war was over in Japan, but we were. Well, I suppose we could read the papers and things that said it was soon going to end and how well they were doing, and we were all very happy and knew that it wouldn't maybe be real long before we'd be back in our country, and it was great.
It'd have to be a highlight of
Oh, sure. And came home on a ship. See, I had pictures that could not find.
Did you bring any pictures with you today?
Yes.
We'll look at them in just a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but this one picture, I just told Bob about it. I wished I could have found it. There was, on the ship that we were on, I didn't take the picture, but I was lucky enough to get a copy of it. This one man was standing up on the railing and pointing and saying, "I live right over there." You know, I don't know whether it's Brooklyn or where it was, but when we were coming home. Then we had to go to someplace in Wisconsin, I think, and then I was home for a month, and then since I was one of the younger ones and wasn't married, and we went to Camp Seibert, Alabama, and were to go to the China, Burma, India. And we were taking rifles apart, because that was supposed to be one of the things that we would have to do or carry. And then Drew Pearson was a national newsman, and we had enough points so that we could be discharged from the service, but they were still grooming us for the CBI. And then several of the nurses wrote to Drew Pearson, and it came out over the radio that they were treating these nurses down in Alabama like soldiers, or I don't know how they said it. But anyway, in a few days we were told that we were to be discharged. So that was that. But just because I got to come back to the States did not necessarily mean that I was going to get discharged until those things happened. I was discharged in Rome, Georgia.
Did you ever think you'd be 86 years old?
No, no. Bob would say I was going to see. Both my parents died. One was 61, one was 63, and they both died of cancer. So I've been going to die for a long time.
That's okay with me. That's okay with me.
But no, I love life.
And secret to a long life?
fairly healthy. Secret to a long life? Ooh, just do the best we can, I guess. Try to eat right. And the government's taking real good care of our medicine. And we're going to go to Fort Dodge for our 6-month checkup on Monday. So,
What do you want, last question, what do you want people to remember about you someday when you're gone? Or what should people remember about Bernice?
well, I'd like to have them think that I'd been a good wife and mother. That would be my main. And I've enjoyed being a nurse. I was a public health nurse in Hancock County for 19 years. Well, what else? I mean,
There's no
I love life and love my family and my friends.
How important do you feel it is to record these memories for our younger generations to learn from? Do you think it's important that we document these stories?
Well, I would like to think that they would not enjoy hearing about it, but that it would mean something to them to see what has gone on, because they may not realize it. Like I say, not many people come up and ask you to tell me about your experience, you know. The only time I think that anyone appreciates hearing about it is like when Nadia and I get together. And we have stayed a close group, our hospital. Each Christmas we wrote to one of the men that was in our outfit, and he compiled a newspaper type thing and had kept us. He's not living now, so we do not have it. So we have, and we've had reunions and the whole group, and we had a real good group.
I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. At the end of my interviews, I had Nadia do this. I asked the veteran to give me a salute into the camera. From where you're seated, when I tell you, can you give me a salute into the camera?
Look into the camera?
Yeah, when I tell you. And I want you to give me a salute right into the camera, okay? Go ahead. All right, thank you. Thanks.